Hi everybody, I'm Corinne Blackstone and welcome to my craft room. Before we get started, be sure that you're subscribed here on YouTube. That way you don't miss out on any of the crafty content we have coming. Today's video is a little bit different because I was sent a DTF printer from InkSonic. Now they did send me the DTF printer, all the accessories, all the ink, all the things, but I want you to know that I never do these videos without giving you my 100% honest review, and I won't work with a company that won't allow me to do so. So all my thoughts will be in this video, the good, the bad, the ugly, all of it. So I'm excited to talk to you a little bit more about this DTF printer. Now I don't have it with me down here because she is quite large and she is quite heavy. So I do have it set up upstairs in my office. So you'll see the printer in just a few. And I'm going to show you how I printed this image here. But I did print a couple others off camera just to kind of try them out in a few different colors. Now these are just printed and pressed, but I'm going to be washing these over the next few weeks with every load of laundry that we do so that I can test out the ink and the process here just to see how it holds up, because that's something that we want to know for sure. Now, if you have any questions about having a home DTF printer or this DTF printer in specific, let me know in the comments for a future video, because I'll be answering all of your questions in the next video, which will come up in just a couple of weeks. I'm so excited to show you more about this printer. So without further ado, let's go unpack it. It's time to unbox. So I want you to be prepared to have some wire cutters and some pliers, because this was really well packed, but it had some wire around the little latches. Now they send you a couple t-shirts to get started. Of course, your instructions, the dongle and the USB, plus a really cute little keychain with their polar bear logo. You've got some extra lines and bottles, plus you've got all the little feet. I'm sorry that I didn't get those in frame, but they're not that exciting. You also get a roll of the film, plus a heat press, which I'm not going to use. You get a multimeter. Now this is going to come in your package. Make sure you throw that away. That's super dangerous for your pets and stuff. You're also going to get the oven, which I took out, and I'll talk more about the oven in a little while. Now be prepared. You do have a lot of packing, and don't lose that little rod. That's for your roll holder. And then you're also going to get the tray and the pieces for your roll holder. Now, again, lots of styrofoam, so be prepared, especially if you're living somewhere where you don't have like great trash service. You're going to have quite a bit to get rid of. Now, my husband's going to take this crate and turn it into something, so I think that's really fun. And also be prepared. You may want someone to help you get this out. You can see I struggled. I did get it, but I didn't catch it on film because it was so heavy. There's a lot of plastic wrapping around this thing, so make sure that you get all that plastic off. I recommend having a pair of scissors or a box cutter handy, because that tape is not easy to get off. And be prepared, you're going to have to lift it up a little bit to get that plastic off of there. Just take your time. Now there is some blue tape that you'll want to make sure that you get off from both the outside and inside of the printer. To access the inside, lift the little tab, turn it, and then you can open the lid. And then you'll take off the tape that's inside, and you'll get out the pieces that go to the roll holder, which are these two black pieces. Now be prepared for like the amount of saran wrap that you could probably wrap an entire like 27-course meal in, because just about everything's wrapped in this, including these. So you're going to have a lot of trash. Now you want to make sure that you don't put the ink into your machine until you've installed the software, which we're going to do now. Before we install the software, I do want to install the roller holder. So this is where a little bit of the bad came into play. One of the screws was not threaded correctly, so it was not going into the hole on the machine. My husband ended up having to come through with some tools and fix it. So that's something to be aware of, because you'll see I change which screw I put in on the top one, and I'm sorry that my arm's in the way, but you're basically just screwing these little black topped screws into the back of your machine. You'll see 4 holes. And you want to make sure that the clip, which is that silver piece up at the top, is facing outward when you put that on. Now you're going to put 2 of these on, one on the left and one on the right. This is where I get mad at this screw, and I'm like, maybe there's something wrong with the screw and it's not me, because at first I'm like, am I crazy? So I put a new screw in and it went in no problem. So just be aware that you might need to kind of mess with the screws a little bit to get them to fit. But you'll have one that goes in on the left and one that goes in on the right. And you want to make sure that these are really tightly on and they're facing the correct way, because if they're not, then your roll won't stay on your roll holder, which can be really frustrating. So I wasn't able to put that roll holder on all the way until my husband got home. So you may see a different shirt when I come back to fix this. But see, now I've changed screws because that top screw, just something was very wrong with it. And I knew something was wrong with it when I tried to put it in the other holes. So just be aware that that could be something that you may run into. And if you do, just be prepared to kind of have to fix it a little bit, because they don't have extra screws. You get 4 screws, so do not lose them, because if you do, you're gonna have to go to the hardware store and try to find something that will fit. The final step is to actually install the film, which again has the world's biggest amount of saran wrap around it, but it does keep it really well protected. You wanna take that rod that you had and you wanna put one of those black discs that you took out of the printer on it and slide that into either end of your tube. And you're going to do that for both ends. You want to make sure they're really well in there, because I didn't, and that one fell out. So we just pushed it right back in. This does take a little bit of oomph. Once I've got those in, and you can see I'm kind of pushing it onto the crate to get them in, you're going to put those little tabs that you see. They're like a tube with a screw on it. You're going to put that on there, and that's going to hold the roll holder, like the roll itself, in place on the rod. You don't have to do them really tight right now because you're going to need to move them. You want to place your rod onto the divots on your metal brackets that you installed at the back of your printer. Then you're going to take the little tabs and put those on to the bracket or the rod. And you're going to put them on to the first line of the rod, and the second line will fit into the little bracket. And you want to make sure the arrow on your tube is facing towards your printer. Your first step for installing is to input your USB drive and then drag and drop all of the files into your desktop. Now that may take a second to go ahead and transfer. Once you've done that, what you'll do is you're going to open the folder, which should be like C13 or something like that, 134. You're going to open file number 2, and you want to use the correct file for your Windows. So I'm using Windows 64-bit, and this basically walks you through everything. So you really don't have much to think about. It tells you exactly what to do. You're going to choose other country if you're in the United States, and just asks if you'd like to install this. Then you want to make sure that you select COM1 here on this setup menu. So scroll down till you find COM1, and you're going to select that one and click OK. Now again, this really does just kind of walk you through everything, so it's not super hard to do. Once you've done that, you may need to update the firmware on your Epson, which is basically what this printer runs on, is the Epson software. So if it does that, just update that firmware. You're going to open up the number 3 folder, which is your RIP software setup. You want to start with the top one, which is the setup, and that's your application folder. You're just going to go ahead and agree to the terms and click install. Now again, this may take a few moments to install. It does take a little bit, but that's okay. Then all you simply do is click next and click OK. This, again, it really does walk you through everything. And again, you may have an Epson software thing that you have to agree to. Just go ahead and agree. That's their terms of service, and it'll update anything it needs to. Then you're going to install your RIP software, which it'll open up automatically, and go ahead and install all those files for you. Again, this is so easy. Go ahead and click finish, and then it's going to open up your software. You'll see their cute little polar bear, and your software is ready to go. Once you've installed your software, you can put the ink in, and you'll see on the side there are 5 ink tanks, and you want to make sure you put the correct ink in the correct tank. They're labeled really well. All you do is just shake the white really well, because that one's a little bit chunky, and put all the entire bottle in. The entire bottle will fit in each color, and you just do that for each of the 5. I did shake all of them just to make sure there wasn't any sediment, but it's so easy to do. I would recommend having a little paper towel close by just in case of any spillage or anything like that. But truly, this was a really easy process. And again, just make sure that you're putting the correct color into the correct tank. If you don't, you're going to have a really big mess on your hands, and your prints won't come out right, because obviously your printer knows what color is in each bottle. Now, once you've done that, you get to do this really fun thing where you're pulling the ink into the cartridges. So you're going to open up that top again, and there's a little kickstand to hold your top open over on the right-hand side. So these are your little tanks, and I don't get a great shot here, so I am going to speed through this part, but you'll see a better shot in a minute. You have a bunch of syringes that come with your machine and little green tips that you're going to put on the syringe. And what you're going to do is take the cases out, the little cartridges, and you're going to pull the air out of the cartridges, which is going to be pulling the ink into those cartridges. Now, like I said, I get a way better shot of this in a little bit, so I will speed through this part just a smidge, but I'm going to do that for each color, and you want to use a new syringe for every single tank. So they give you enough to do each tank separately, and you're going to use a new syringe for each one. That way you're not going to mix the color. And any of the ink that you pull out that goes into your syringe can be put right back into the ink bottle. So don't worry about if you pull a lot of ink out. Just put it right back into the bottle on the side. Now this is really fun. You can see the yellow ink coming through the tubes. And this is what you need to do because you need to pull the ink into the tubes. It's basically like priming your printer, but I just thought I wanted to show you this because I just thought it looked kind of cool and it's a really fun visual. So here's the better shot. You take it and put it into the little hole, and then you're going to pull all of the air out, and you'll see that the ink kind of comes through the tube. Now you might need to press the air out of your syringe a couple times while you're doing this because the syringes are not very big, but you can start to see the ink coming into that cartridge, and it shows really well here on the side. So I wanted to make sure that you guys could see this. So I'm just taking that syringe and pulling that ink out, and you can see my syringe is inserted, and this is not so simple to do with one hand, but it did pretty well. And like I said, all you do is just shove it in, and then you're going to pull slowly to pull that ink out. Now, again, some ink is going to come out into your syringe, and that's totally okay. It's not wasted ink. Just put it back into your ink bottle. But you can see right there, I got some ink out. So you're going to do this for each color. And like I said, you want to make sure you're using a different syringe for each one. I'm sorry that this is out of frame. I'm literally just wiping the top off. I got a little bit of ink on the top of the cartridge, and I just didn't cut this out, and I don't know why. But this is a super easy process, like I said. So for this one, you'll see that red ink coming through, the magenta, and then you can see it filling the cartridge, and then you'll see some of it come out into the syringe. You want to make sure some of it does get into your syringe. If not, it's not going to be fully charged into the cartridge. So just be sure that you do have some. You don't need to pull a lot out. I barely pulled any of the red out. So that's all you need to do. It's really easy to prime this. Don't be afraid of it. Once you've primed them, you're going to just reinstall them, and all you do is kind of flip them back over and clip them into place. They clip in super easy, super simple, and you're going to do that. Your black and your yellow and your blue and your red are connected, so those will have to come out together, but you just simply click them in, and you'll feel them click into place. And voila, done. We're almost ready to use our machine. What you need to do now after you filled your ink is hold this little button above that teardrop shape for 5 seconds. And what that's going to do is that's going to run, I believe it's called a nozzle cleaning, a nozzle purge, something like that. But when it does that, what you'll see is you're going to get some ink that's going to come through this tube right here. You'll see it's going to turn like dark black, and it's going to go into this little waste bottle. Now you want to make sure that that hose is in that bottle before you do anything like this, but that's going to prime your printer to be ready to get the ink out onto your film. So it's really easy to do. One last thing before we can go over to the software to get our print ready is that we need to load our film into the machine. So peel off that little sticker, and you're just going to kind of lightly, I guess, kind of get that paper or film into the back of the machine. But this is where you need to adjust where that roll is sitting. It should sit all the way to the right. So you might need to loosen up those little brackets that are holding it and just push it all the way to the right so that the film sits on the right edge of your printer. This is super important, so make sure that you do that, and then make sure that those little brackets are tight so that this isn't going to wiggle around while it's printing, because it's really important that that stays nice and stable. So I had to adjust them a little bit, and it was fine. You just unscrew them and get that film where it needs to sit, that film roll, and then tighten them back up. So it's very easy to do. Through your computer, you want to run a nozzle check, which is what this is doing, and you have to wait till you've loaded your film. But there's your nozzle check. It's super hard to see, but that's all you have to do. I'm going to go over the software with you on the next tutorial because I really want you to see the machine working first. But this is really cool because what I want you to notice is it's printing out, and you can see the red hat of the goose. But when it comes to DTF prints, they have a background that's like white, and you can start to see it printing that white there at the top of the hat. So it's going to print out your color and then place a base layer of white under it, and that helps it hold its color. It's really cool. It's a really fun thing, but it does take a little while. It's not the fastest thing in the world. This print took about 15 minutes to complete, and it was really easy. And I will say the printer is not super loud, so there's that because there is a fan in the printer. So I'm going to let this go ahead, finish printing, and I'll show you our next step. Once your design is printed out, you need to cover it with a DTF transfer powder, and this is basically what makes it adhesive. So use like a Tupperware dish or something like that. That way you can save the powder, and you want to sprinkle it kind of all over. If you don't get every part right now, it doesn't matter, because you're going to take this powder and you're going to kind of move it around your print to make sure that you've covered all your pieces and parts. So I'll pick up my print and I just shake that powder around, and I make sure that I get to all of the edges of my print. The top, the bottom, the sides, everywhere. And you want to just make sure that you get that well covered, because that again is what's going to make the adhesive. Then you can set your print over to the side. I tap off a little bit of the extra powder. Probably should wear gloves while doing this. I didn't, but it didn't irritate my hands or anything. I didn't really get it on them. Then I just tap my powder into a pile at the base of my Tupperware. And this part's going to be off screen, but I am pouring it back into the bag because, again, you can absolutely save the powder that you didn't use and didn't stick to your image. So make sure that you pour it back into the bag to save it, and then make sure you seal your bag and store it in a cool, dark place. Remember I said I'd talk about the oven. So this is the oven. This does come with the printer. And I have to be honest with you, I am not comfortable putting this together myself. I don't think the instructions are bad. I'm just not comfortable doing anything as far as like plugging any wires into anywhere. And you need to plug wires into this white box on both sides with those heating tubes. And honestly, I ain't doing it because I'm not comfortable doing that. My husband said he would do it, so we'll do it at some point, and I will try it again in the next video. But for now, we're just going to use my heat press to cure these, because you can absolutely do that. Now, to cure the powder and the ink, I'm going to use my heat press for this. I just wasn't comfortable setting up the oven. If my husband will do it for me, then I'll show you how to set it up. But for me, just wasn't comfortable. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn my heat press on. And to cure the ink, you're going to want to set your temp to about 350 degrees. So I'm going to go ahead and click set. And I'm going to turn my heat down since I had it turned up. And I'm just going to hold the down button. Most heat presses are going to operate very similarly. So even though I'm using a different type, yours should really operate the same way. I'm going to hit set again. And now for this, I want to do about 2 minutes for this. And I don't know why I hit down. You're going to need to hover your heat press. Now here's the thing. It really doesn't matter, because we're not going to press it down enough for it to have any issues as far as turning on the timer. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to turn our timer down to do the 10 seconds to press this when we're ready to press it. And I'm going to dust that off. I just realized it's a little bit dusty. And then just hit set again and set one more time and then set. Now we'll let this heat up. I'm going to go ahead and bring one of the images over. I did print 3 of them just so we could test a couple things. Now I'm going to bring my goose over to my heat press here. And I'm going to move you guys a little bit so you can see better. But once this warms up, we'll hover it so that it's over the image. And you can have your image sitting here while it's warming up. That's totally fine. You can see that it's like not touching or anything. And what it'll do is when it warms it, it's going to cure the powder and the ink and all that. And then we'll be able to press it. So I'm going to go ahead and let this warm up, and then I'll show you what we mean when I say hover. So the heat press is heated up to that 350 degrees. Now, what the oven would do is the same idea, but you wouldn't have to manually like hold the press down. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hover this over. I want to make sure it doesn't touch, but you can see I'm getting it pretty close. Now, one thing I also want to point out is my Teflon sheet is a little bit loose right now, so I'm going to tighten this up just a bit, just so that I make sure it's not going to like really touch that. And you just want to hover this over it and make sure it's not touching it. So I'm kind of leaning back so I can see that it's not touching it. And what you're going to do is literally just stand here and hover this. Now you could do this with an easy press if you wanted to. They come with a heat press with the printer as well, but again, not something I felt like setting up. Since I have a big heat press, that's going to do a much better job. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to let this hover for a while. I'm not going to make you guys watch all of my time doing this because it does take a little while, about 2 to 3 minutes. All right, friends, I'm going to be 100% honest. I accidentally touched the Teflon sheet to the adhesive, but rather than change my Teflon sheet because it's hot and the magnets get hot, I'm just putting a piece of butcher paper. It's kind of glued to it now, so it's fine. I'll change my Teflon sheet later, but that's one thing you need to be careful of when you're curing if you're using a heat press. Like I said, I'm going to have my husband come and put the the oven together. But I cured my little goosey goose, which I thought was so cute. I'm going to put him on this black crew neck. Now, I do need to move this up a bit because I need to make sure that the goose is in fact on the shirt where I need him. And you want to go about 3 fingers down from the collar. Now, normally I would do this on my table, but I'm pretty confident that I can get this relatively straight and where I want it, because there is a center line on the shirt, so I can use that to kind of center my goose. And then I'm just using the collar just to kind of see. It looks pretty good. And honestly, nobody's going to notice if he's not perfect. So, again, ignore that. That's just to keep the adhesive off my shirt. Now, I'm pressing this at 310 degrees for 10 seconds. And we're using a very firm pressure, which is what you should use when you're doing any DTF prints. You want to use a firm pressure. Now, I'm going to let this press, and once it's done, you can go ahead and lift up. Now, you're going to want to peel this, but don't. You need to allow your DTF prints to cool before you peel them. So you can do some things to help it cool faster. I have a little piece of wood somewhere around here that I can use, and I can like rub that on here. I can use my shirt just to kind of touch it. You can let it cool naturally. Whatever works best for you. Sometimes I'll flip like the bottom of the shirt up because that can pull some of the heat out. It can take a little while to cool. I don't love taking it off the press to cool if I don't have to. So a lot of times I'll just take like the sleeve of the shirt that you have can work too. And you can just kind of cool it down. You can use like scraps of marble rock that you can get from like Home Depot or Lowe's or whatever. All sorts of options to cool this down faster, but I'm going to let this cool, and what you want is it to be cool almost to the same temperature as like the temperature around you. Like right now it's still warm. Like I can feel the very big difference between the temperature of the air versus the temperature of my design. So I'm going to go ahead and get this cooled down, and then I'll show you our next steps once this is cool. Now that this is fully cool, I do always recommend going a little bit slow just to make sure, but you're just gonna peel off your carrier sheet. So you can see that I'm just slowly peeling this back. Now, like I said, I do like to go a little bit slow, just because I'm new to doing this at home as far as like printing this. Now you'll notice that we do have a lot of the black ink on our sheet. That's totally normal. The black is going to stain much more than any of the other colors, which is why you're going to likely see some black on that carrier sheet. Now we have one last press to do, and again, please ignore that. You're going to take a piece of parchment paper, which is just baking paper basically. Place it over your design, and you're going to press this one more time at that 310 for the 10 seconds. Again, with that firm pressure. This is so easy to do. Pressing DTF prints is so simple, so quick, and you're getting these full color designs without having to weed or cut or anything. And then you're going to go ahead and you can take off your parchment, and your design is good to go. He's done. He's ready. He's perfect. He's so cute. So I'll go ahead and I'm going to get this cooled again because it is really warm. And I'll press the other 2 designs that we made. I probably won't show it on camera because it's literally the same thing. And then I'll show you what everything looks like, and we'll talk about our final thoughts. We get into the nitty-gritty of my thoughts on the printer for my first setup and everything, I just wanted to show you the shirts. Now I do need to work a little bit on that white outline, and there are things I can do in the software to fix that, but honestly I kind of don't mind it on this because I do think it stands out really nice on the black shirt that way. And then this is the one that I showed you that I pressed. I wanted to do something that had more of a pastel-y bright kind of situation color going on, just so I could see kind of how the colors translated, and I think it looks really, really nice. I think it did such a good job on the colors. And then I did a super bright green one behind it as well, which is a little dinosaur, and I just love the way this one came out. But see this little line? There was some dirt printed ink of some sort, so it did show up, but I don't think anyone would really notice it anyways, so it's totally fine. These feel great on the shirt. I think they're going to hold up well. I am going to wash them every time I do laundry for the next few weeks so we can see how well the prints hold up. But I do want to tell you a little bit more about how I feel about the printer. So I'm going to do that while I sit in front of the printer so you can see it better. So what do I think about the InkSonic DTF printer? Honestly, setup-wise, fairly easy. I don't think I ran into too many issues except that screw issue, which hopefully was just a fluke and other people wouldn't have that issue. But even if you do, it's pretty easy fix, so that wasn't so bad. The directions felt a little bit off, but they do send you an electronic PDF that is more up to date and is better. But having the physical instructions was very helpful, and it's a whole instruction book, which was really nice. And you do get a ton of accessories and things. And I do think that as far as like the ink, putting the ink in, getting the ink into the cartridges, all of that was really, really simple. It felt a little intimidating, but once you do it, it's so easy. Now, when it came to the installation of the software, I ran into a few minor issues, but it wasn't anything that couldn't be easily handled or remedied when I was, installing it. My computer is a little bit older than when I put it on because this is not wireless. So that's one thing you need to make sure you know. I have to plug this in directly to a USB port for it to work. So it's not a wireless printer, at least not for me. I couldn't figure it out. I didn't see any instructions to connect it wirelessly. So that's something that you want to keep in mind, that you'll need to have your computer close by for this to work. But otherwise, I really think that it is a simple, easy to set up DTF printer. Now, I will go into more detail in the next video about the maintenance, but there is quite a bit of maintenance with this. This doesn't do any automatic cleanings or anything like that, so you do need to do the automatic nozzle checks, all of that, the automatic stirring of the stuff. I don't know what it's all called, but they have a schedule in the instruction book that kind of lays out what you need to do. And I do think that it's a lot, but I also think that for a DTF printer, you're going to have to do maintenance regardless. Now, you're going to need to print quite often for this so that you can keep it from getting clogged heads. I haven't printed today, so I am going to do the maintenance today, but I want to make sure I film that for the next video because we're going to go into a lot more detail. If you guys have questions, I want you to leave them below so that I can answer them in the next video, and I'll try to answer as many as I possibly can. Now, I will link this down below if you want to grab one. I do, like I said, I think it's a nice printer. I think it does a really nice job. I think the setup was very, very easy. I think it feels like a quality product, but just keep in mind that there is maintenance that will need to happen, and it's going to have to happen pretty much every single day. That way you can keep your printer running as best as you can. So if you're somebody who just wants to do this once in a blue moon for a hobby, do I think you should get a DTF printer? Probably not. But if you're somebody who's printing DTF and ordering DTF all of the time, this is probably going to be a great investment for you. If you ever want to start selling DTF prints, this would probably be a great smaller printer that would fit into your house a lot easier. They make much bigger, much more expensive DTF printers that can do huge sheets. This one is on the smaller side, but I think it's great for the at-home user. Now, I can't speak fully on the oven that they sent because I didn't set it up. I don't feel comfortable setting it up. That's just me. I'm not big on wiring things. I'm sure it's very easy. I did watch their video on how to do it, and it does seem very, very simple. But for me, just not comfortable with it. So I'll have my husband do it for the next video so that we can see how the oven works. Because I do think it'll work really well. I think I'm just not a girl that wants to set that up. But as long as you're fairly comfortable with setting up a printer, even just an inkjet printer, you can set this up. The actual setup portion, very, very easy. The software was fairly easy. I would call that like a medium easy. I ran into a few little hassles, but it wasn't anything that I couldn't handle. I have to say, as far as print quality wise, I'm pretty impressed. I think it does a really nice job. But keep in mind that the quality of your image is going to affect the quality of your print. So you want to make sure you're using the highest quality image possible in order to get the best prints possible. Now, again, if you have questions, let me know in the comments down below. Try to answer them in the next video, or at least get you an answer really easily that you can, access. I'll comment back to you best I can. If I don't know the answer, I will try to find it for you because I do have a contact with InkSonic. So if I ever have questions, they are right there to help me out. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you want any more information, by all means, let me know. I'm excited to keep trying this. I can't wait to send you guys the next video, which I'm going to definitely print more. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the maintenance and how I felt about that. And we're also going to show the shirts that I'm going to wash over and over again, just so we can see how everything holds up. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and as always, happy crafting.